And hi everybody, I'm here with Joanna. She is the owner of Nutrition in Action, and she is going to give us some really good tips on stress eating as well as others. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, Joanna?
Well, I am Joanna. My company's Nutrition in Motion. I basically help optimize your performance and your health so that you love your body and your life. And I really got into helping people with their nutrition and really realized at some point, even through my own journey of adrenal exhaustion 20 years ago, that nutrition is a great tool to help to bring the body back into balance. But you have to really do the spiritual work, the emotional work, emotional trauma, and some of the mental mindset work as well, because the body is not just a summation of parts. It's a whole body. It's a whole entity. And if you don't work on the energy of the body and how stress affects the body and how the food affects the body, if we don't start paying attention to some of those other energies, then we're getting partial health. Mm-hmm. And we're getting, well, that was good enough for now.
Right.
But that also contributes to people always looking for the next thing, the next fad, and it's bigger than that. It's like, okay, there's just eating better and healthier, mm-hmm. and taking care of those other aspects that affect the way that you feel about yourself and how you view yourself and how you view your life. And that also contributes to then, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg syndrome. Is it the stress that caused you to eat that way, or is it the eating that caused the stress? Is it
right.
the way I feel about myself causes the foods I choose, or is it the foods that I choose that cause me to feel that way about myself?
Right. It's
all interrelated, but that's the whole body concept that I work on, because you have to look at all of it. It's mm-hmm. not functional necessarily. It's not spiritual. It's not one thing. It's all of it.
Right, and that's definitely what makes you unique, is you do go back and you look at what's blocking you from making progress.
Yeah.
Which is...
And sometimes, like yoga is a great way of we store a lot of our emotions in the hips. A lot of those emotional memories, they're stored in the hips. So we do a lot of hip openers so that we can do those releases. You suddenly feel, like you're welling up in tears or whatever, because you may be just processing that grief that you didn't process when you were 3 or 5 or 8 or whatever it was, and all these other experiences layered on top of it. I'm just here to peel some of those layers off so that we can actually get to the root of the problem and what is the stress that's actually creating the challenge with the eating.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes it's what you're eating and sometimes it's how you're eating.
Now explain that, how you're eating. What do you mean by that?
So I'm just going to give you a little scenario about stress. And this is something where I will let you know that 20 years ago I had adrenal exhaustion. I went from Ironman to, I can't walk to the mailbox and back without taking a nap. So I kind of forgot who I am, like what's going on. But I had every single health issue that you could know. Mm-hmm. I pretty much had all of them. My body was shutting itself down. My digestion was horrible. And I really just fought myself on every level in terms of what the healthy was. But I was a healthy eater. I was healthy and I was all focused on that. But that's when I learned about the whole dysbiosis and how to eat right, how to eat right in the frame of mind, like a lot of people talk about it, like mindful eating. Mm-hmm. It's really the how you eat is, okay, how do you set up how you eat? Do you just like fly by the seat of your pants, you're driving and just like shoving it all down? That's a way of eating.
Oh, yeah.
That is a stress eating.
That is stress eating.
That is stress eating. I've run out of time. And guess what? That creates stress in your body, and your body isn't digesting that food. Your body isn't designed to digest chunks of food. So we take those 3 bites and, oh wait, here's my water, let me swallow it down. Mm-hmm. We need to actually chew that food into a puree. That's part of the process. Is we need to just be mindful of, I need to be actually chewing this, because if I want these nutrients to be absorbed by my body, I need to break them down in a way that my body can do the rest of the work. The chunks are not going to be helpful.
Makes sense.
And if you notice, with this COVID thing, we're all stressed out anyway because we're stuck in a little box. But a lot of times the scheduling has been different too. More Zoom meetings, more this, and more back to back. And so you rush to the kitchen and come back and try to eat it all in a hurry. You might be feeling more gas and bloating, more distension, more GI distress because of it. But it's all because you really didn't take the time to chew the food. So, but those are all parts of the eating process. Is okay. Let's be aware of what's going on. I have an issue. What are we looking at? What can we do to make it better? Can we schedule a time that you can actually put 10 minutes aside? We'll start with 10 minutes. We'll just start with a little window. 10 minutes so that you can actually sit down, lay the table if that is something that would be helpful. I want you to actually bless your food, not necessarily say grace. That can help too, but you need to actually breathe. That will help to relax you, relax the whole body, and actually get you ready, get the body ready to take in those nutrients. You might even find that you are going to enjoy that meal a little bit better too, because you actually paid attention and you were like, wow, I now am enjoying this, and I didn't eat all of it, or 2/3 of it, or, and then that triggers another stress. Right. You ate all of it, and I can't even remember that I ate any of it.
Sounds familiar.
None of us have done that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But that was me 20 years ago too. And I had to learn how to do these things differently. I had to learn how to choose foods differently to kind of counteract the reaction that my body has to stress.
Right.
And what are the things that contribute to stress? Obviously, we're feeling isolated. That's stress. We feel more pressure to perform in a smaller time frame, and we're confined to a space in our home that's not really an office. I luckily work from home, and my office kind of looks like this, where we typically sit and have a conversation on the couch. That's how I work with my clients, because it's safe for you, it's very comfortable, and
Tell me, I've been there.
Yeah, but that's not what everybody has, so there's stress. Right. Then with that stress, we typically grab for things that soothe the emotions. So that's another description for stress eating. It's grabbing the chips. My sister came to visit me a couple weeks ago, and she was creating trivia night for a group that she gets together with, and when she's stressed, she grabs chips. She needs something crunchy. Wow. And it's just, and you can see she's concentrating, and I just took one look at her and I said, you need something crunchy, don't you? And she's like, yeah, I do. How did you know? I go, that's what you do when you're stressed and you're concentrating. So one is understanding what is that craving for. It's overwhelm, it's stress. Okay, let's look at it differently. Recognize that it's stress and overwhelm. It's not to say, okay, now don't eat the chips. No, right. Understand why you're eating the chips and go, okay, I'm overwhelmed. That's fine. What am I overwhelmed about? Why am I overwhelmed? And is there a way that I can break it down into, make it my to-do list and pick one thing to do? Just one.
Just one.
Because when you look at the 10 things you have to do, or sometimes it's 10,000, that creates that stress. And then you will go eat the whole bag of chips because you're just scattered all over the place. Marry that with, yoga and some deep breathing, and really deep breathing into the belly. You get out of your head and into your heart, and then it's like, oh, I just need to do this one thing, and it'll take me, 5 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that. I know when I work from home, I like to graze. When I'm working, get up, eat some nuts, and then it continues.
Yeah.
Not actually getting more done, but for some reason, it's a trigger.
It's a trigger, but it's understanding that trigger so that when it happens, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's what that means. Now I can work through that in a different way. And it's not, and maybe you'll only have a third of those nuts. And maybe it'll be, okay, I had 10 nuts and I'm like, I'm good now. And then you won't come back to that grazing.
Right.
So part of it is too, like with my sister, she can't do gluten and neither can I. So I don't have pretzels in the house. I don't have those kind of crunchy snacks. But now they have lots of great, and if I gave her a carrot, she'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So it's not about doing unrealistic changes. You need something crunchy. I happen to have lentil chips. And there's a new brand called Plant Snacks that I just got at Wegmans, and they're really good. And they have, and then there's also lentil chips.
Right.
So some of these things, they're at least gluten-free, wheat-free. They give you the crunch, but they're not going to give you another inflammatory response, which is another stress eating thing. We could go on for hours.
I'm gonna check the messages you keep talking.
Okay. So I think that's all of this stuff about stress eating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So each when we're talking about the food cravings, it's just understanding what these cravings mean, and then find the solution for it, which could be alternative choices. It could be, once we understand the craving, then the solution isn't related to the food. It's all related to how am I going to deal with the stress that's right in front of my nose right now, and I don't know what tools I can use. We just provide more tools so that stress is no longer viewed as a stress.
Right.
And then everything's fine, and then you can eat your chocolate, and then you can eat your chips, and you can eat your nuts. But it's going to be in a different framework, and you won't beat yourself up for having eaten it.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody looked at my diet, they'd be like, you have a chocolate problem. And I'm like, no, I don't have a chocolate problem. I used to look at it as a problem, but that's another part too. Like, you got to reframe it. It's not a problem.
Right.
For me, I stress eat with chocolate. I celebrate with chocolate. I'm depressed with chocolate. Whatever it is, I'm like, chocolate's my thing. And I choose the darkest chocolate because then at least I'm enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm really stressed, like, I could eat, I buy the Dove squares, the dark chocolate ones.
Oh, okay.
Because they have the little things inside too, so sometimes I look at those. But when I'm stressed, I could eat 10 of those like in 2 minutes.
Wow, so you are a normal person.
Normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just different for every single person. But I used to judge myself for eating that chocolate.
Yeah.
And that's adding another stress.
Right.
So these are all, it seems like stress, but it totally affects the way that you eat.
Now, since COVID, are you finding that your clients are struggling even more with stress eating, or have you been able to guide them out of that habit?
So the interesting thing is that the clients that I've already been working with, that I've been working with for 2-3 months or some longer, that they really didn't have any issues with the stress. So their eating was fine.
Okay.
But I have the newer clients that I have all have GI issues. So they've got IBS, they've got the bloating, the distension, the gas, the stomach aches, because those things all get worse with stress. I was saying at the beginning that first, the digestion starts with chewing the food.
Right.
But when we're stressed, our body actually doesn't think that digesting food is a priority. So all the digestion fluids kind of stop.
So you said that our bodies, when we stress eat, our bodies don't see the value in digesting our foods?
Pretty much. When you're stressed and you're in that fight or flight,
wow,
your body is like, oh, that's not a priority.
Yeah.
That's not our priority. We're going to kind of shut that down. So then you're not creating the digestive enzymes to really digest the food that you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
And so that actually triggers even more things, and then that creates the imbalance in the digestive tract, and then the beneficial flora and the less beneficial flora, even though they're supposed to have a nice little party, the non-beneficial proliferate, and the other ones don't. And some of that is because of what we choose when we're stress eating is feeding that non-beneficial bacteria, because it's typically sugar and simple
Right.
foods and processed foods, rather than, you know, vegetables and onions and garlic and you know, things like that. So it's a combination of working with these clients on where they are, but right now the stress eating has caused GI issues, and it's about rebalancing all those things by working kind of backwards. You're here, now we've got to eliminate one or two things at a time and replace them with a different habit or a different form. Reintroduce those mindful eating practices, which if you leave your messages or send me an email, Joanna at n-im.net, and I will send you the list of my 5 practical mindful eating steps.
I'll put that in there. So what are your 5 practical eating steps?
Well, if I could tell you exactly what they were. No, but it's really, you have to be present for the meal. So you want to first eliminate all the distractions. Then you want to chew your food into a puree. And it might be, you know, you take smaller bites so that you can do that. You eliminate all the liquids from the meal so that you can then just focus on chewing. Then you want to start paying attention to whether you're satisfied or full.
All right, tell me your email address.
Joanna, Joanna, at, or that's the ampersand, N for nutrition, dash, IM for in motion, .net. And then I will send you those 5 practical steps to mindful eating. And again, just pick one. Pick one thing to do at a time. Once you master that, then you do the next one. But if you're having issues and they're just not going away and these things aren't helping, that's when it's time to get a hold of me and say, help,
Right.
what do I do?
Right.
And it could be the nutrition work, it could be the energy work, because we've got to find out where is that stress originating from, and how can we reframe it so that your body is not responding to that stress in the same way. Or it's so that your body actually doesn't view it as a stress.
Right.
That's the whole thing. If you're triggered, it's a stress.
So
The other thing that I was going to say about stress eating, like
Yeah.
when you're in that place of stress, I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, if you're not hungry, then just don't eat. You're fine that way.
Right.
Don't worry about, oh, I have to balance the blood sugar. I need to fuel my body. You know what? When you're that stressed, your body's saying, I don't want food. Don't give it to it. But when you're stressed, more greens, less grains, and more water, because you don't want to get dehydrated on top of it, which is more stress.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that's the basic thing. More greens, less grains, more water.
Awesome.
Do you have any questions?
Well, it's interesting that you said about not eating when you feel stressed. If you're not hungry, sometimes that's the best, for me, the best stress reliever is just not eat. My stomach feels better, but when I do, it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah.
So, now you say greens. What kind of greens?
Green, not green M&Ms. Not that kind of green. But you know, that's a treat you could have once in a while.
Yeah.
It's going to be anything that's green. Broccoli, asparagus, cauliflower's not really green, but you know,
Veggie.
it's the vegetables. You know, the kale, the spinach, the green beans, anything that's basically like a low carbohydrate vegetable, not the starchy ones. Those are going to, and the greener they are and the darker the green, the more of the antioxidants that they have.
Okay.
So those antioxidants fight the free radicals that are being created when we're in a state of stress.
That's right.
They have more calcium and magnesium to help the muscles relax. When we're in a state of stress, our muscles are all tense, so
That's
it helps
right.
them to kind of mellow out. So there's a whole bunch of things where it gives you all these extra properties and extra nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that, oh, eat these because they're low calorie food. No, eat them because they're actually going to counteract the body's response to stress. You might not feel like eating the greens, and you might have to force yourself originally to eat the greens. But that's going to be something where it doesn't matter if you're probably better off with cooked rather than raw. But they're going to help to counteract some of that stress long term as well as short term.
Right, and then plus your body will get used to it and crave it anyway.
Greens.
Yeah.
And the grains, it's pretty much all of them.
So wouldn't you eat greens when you're stressed? Did you say that when you're stressed?
I'm not saying don't eat them at all,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to limit them. You want to have more potatoes than you would wheat, pasta, and crackers.
Oh, so processed food.
No, grains specifically. Your body will process the grains differently than they will the potatoes. The potatoes are actually grounding. Right. Beets are grounding. All those root vegetables are grounding.
That's true.
Where the grains are like, if you're already windy and, it's like your head's all flowing and scattering all over the place along with it.
Wow, that's another way to look at it, is how our food is grown and how, that's awesome.
But yeah, that's why I say less grains and more greens.
Okay.
It's
great.
And even though some people are like, oh, well, the greens are flying, I'm like, well, they're pretty much firm where they are. So it's all finding that balance, and it's a combination, and it's a work in progress. It's taken me 20 years to do this. Now I just found shortcuts to help everyone get there in a shorter amount of time.
That's true. And you know what? It might be a good idea to friend Joanna, because she does have some cooking events at her house.
I do.
And she's been doing
Zoom
events. So when is your next cooking event?
It's actually next Tuesday. It's every other Tuesday, and you basically go look on Facebook, and it's called Cooking Fun with Joanna, and that Joanna is me. And I have all the ingredients listed on the Facebook event, so that you have all the time in the world until Tuesday at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time to get all the ingredients. Some of the people have actually cut some of the stuff up ahead of time, but we basically walk through the process, and I cook with you, and I walk you through each step, so that in 45 minutes we went from ingredients to full course meal.
Wow. So what are you cooking next week?
Asian marinated turkey with roasted Brussels sprouts and carrots.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah, because it's this is the season now for roasted Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, it is. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's going to be every 2 weeks. There's something new. I can't even tell you what's all the things that we did, but we've did turkey burgers with rosemary.
Mm-hmm.
Last time we did, actually everything was olives, so it was chicken with olives and orange, and then the sides were feta olive mashed potatoes.
Awesome.
So freaking good.
Awesome.
And then I add cauliflower in there to kind of thin out the potatoes, but it's every week it's something different. And it's fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'm not working on Tuesday nights, so maybe I can join you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's literally, cooking fun with Joanna every other Tuesday at 5:30, and it's $10 to join, but you get to get this fabulous meal. And I have had some people actually bring their daughters and their sons to it, or it becomes date night for husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's a lot
cool.
Yeah, it's been been a lot of fun.
I like that.
And sometimes I haven't even made the recipe, so then we're like, but because I know how to cook,
right,
it gives me, I know how to create the shortcuts, but that's what I'm doing with some of these recipes is I'm giving you new ways of making things that you might not have had. So then it's less stress for you, because you're like, oh, now I know what to do with this vegetable.
That's right.
And I've had people that don't like things that I have on the menu, and at the end they're like, wow, that is really good. Those flavors really blended well together.
Oh, good.
And we do have some with bacon.
Ooh, love bacon. So, to wrap up this interview, do you have anything else you'd like to tell the audience out there?
Breathe. Really, it's just breathe.
Just breathe.
You know, whenever you feel triggered, first off, just breathe.
Yeah.
Because that is the solution for, I mean, you'll hear it from me in our sessions. The first thing is always going to be just breathe. And isn't that what yoga is all about too? Connecting us with our breath and connecting the whole body.
To breathe.
Yeah.
So, well, I appreciate you coming and meeting. It's good to get to be in person today. We haven't talked since April.
No, but I haven't seen you since I think November of last year.
November, yeah.
Because we had the What About Me
That's
workshop series. So
looking forward to getting some things back on live. So
yeah.
well, thank you, Joanna.
Thank you, Patty. It's been a pleasure. And
this video will be up, so you can email Joanna. The email is in the messages. And thanks for joining us.
thank you.